All right, welcome back to JB Squared. I'm JB Hager, but more importantly, joined by Johan Bernil. And we do this JB Squared show after the move so we can let Johan go into deep detail on his observations during the Tour de France, whether it's an individual or a team or both. It's very, very insightful. So we're going to get to stage 2 already. A pretty exciting Tour de France for 2 stages. It's hard to believe. We'll get into all that with Johan in just a minute. But first, here is some messages from a couple of our partners. Today's show is brought to you by HVMN. You've heard us all talking about it on this show, the move, and then obviously now on JB Squared, we're happy to tell you about it. Ketone IQ by HVMN. I started taking this 3 months ago or so, daily. I do a shot daily, and it's really my biggest notice. I mean, of course, Lance and George noticed a lot of the physical benefits of using Ketones IQ. But for me, it just helped with mental clarity. I don't know. I just was in a fog there for a while. Honest to God, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was age. I don't know if it was like this lingering COVID thing. But a couple months of taking Ketones IQ, I was like, wow, I feel good. I feel alert again. I feel like I can pay attention better, focus on things better. So not only physical improvements by using Ketones IQ, but also mental clarity. I can vouch for that. A big portion of the peloton is using Ketones IQ, and they've really improved the cost and the taste and the little shot sizes, or you can do the large bottle that's basically 10 shots. You can do it either way. I've done both. It's also available in Sprouts throughout the U.S. if you want to pick it up in your city. And you can save 30% off your first subscription order of Ketone IQ at hvmn.com/themove. All right. Again, visit hvmn.com/themove and subscribe upon checkout for 30% off. Today's show is also brought to you by Ventum Bikes. Now I'm at this point in coverage here. I own an NS1, the road bike, and just a few months ago got the GS1. And I am having a blast. I've never had a gravel bike before. Riding 42-inch knobby tires on a somewhat road geometry is an absolute blast. Really, really enjoying it. The NS1 has an all-new integrated all-road bar, better tire clearance, and refined carbon layup. And that improves stability, more compliant descending, and stiffer cornering. The new GS1 is more stable and smooth over rough and technical roads thanks to the longer reach, better tire clearance, and a longer wheelbase. So go check it out at ventumracing.com. You'll love how easy it is and how specific you can get on speccing out your bike. Picking the geometry, you can pick the width of the handlebars, the stem length, everything. What wheel upgrades if you want that, the crank length, and there's a lot of helpful information to help you pick that out if you're not real familiar with your sizing. You can get 10% off when you use the code we do at checkout at ventumracing.com/themove. All right, Johan, let's start out with your broad views of stage 2. This is like you're watching the 2 heads of state doing battle on day 2. And it's just like, wow, it's like I don't think it doesn't have that slow run up that you often get with the Tour de France. It's like fireworks out of the gate, stage 1 and 2.
Yeah, exactly. I think stage 1 and stage 2, we saw, the protagonists of the stage were the 2 big favorites, Jonas Vingegaard and Tadej Pogačar, and their teams. It's like there's no other. There's no other teams in the race to determine what's going to happen. And today was more or less the same. We saw the 3-man breakaway very easily. They went away. It was 3 strong riders. So. Nilsen Paulus and Edvald Boasson-Hagen and Remy Cavagna, those were 3 strong riders. And I was a bit surprised to see, I didn't watch the start, but, when I turned on the broadcast, they had like 3-4 minutes, these riders, and the whole UAE team on the front. And I was thinking, why would they spend so much energy so early in the tour and so early in this stage, knowing that, there was definitely going to be war between Pogačar and Vingegaard and the other favorites on the last climb on the High Ski Bell. So I was questioning that, and I've kept questioning it the whole stage, until the bottom of the Jaiskibel, because so early in the stage, yes, they do have the yellow jersey with Adam Yates, but Adam Yates has stated very, very clearly that he was at the service of Pogačar. I think yesterday was definitely an unplanned scenario that they won the stage and took yellow. But Adam Yates is also a dangerous guy for the other, somebody they can use later strategically in the mountain stages. So I was thinking to myself, why would UAE not let this gap go 3-4 more minutes? And then I would want to bet a lot of money on the fact that Jumbo-Visma would have come with 2 riders to set the pace, to make sure that this breakaway stayed within reach, because this was one of the stages that Wout Van Aert wanted to win, right? And also, you don't want to give these guys 6-7 minutes, although nobody of these guys is dangerous for the GC, but still, I found that strange that they were so determined, and I could also see a bit of chaos within the team, a bit of nerves. The 2 Scandinavians, Mikkel Björk and the other guy, I don't remember his name, Laken, or the tall guy from UAE. They were obviously on pulling duty. And I could see Matteo Trentin getting upset with them a few times because they were basically once again doing their job too good, and they got probably too excited. Obviously, Mikkel Björk, it's clear he has incredible legs in these first 2 stages. But still, yes, they pulled the whole stage. They only used 2 riders, right? But I think it could have been done a lot differently. Jumbo-Visma would not have let this stage escape, although they didn't, even if they didn't win at the end. But so I wrote down here, did UAE not learn anything from last year? They, I think. Then later in the stage, we've seen that with Grosshartner and Rafał Majka, who was incredibly strong, and Adam Yates, obviously, and Pogačar, they had 4 riders in that elite group at the end. And I said, I wrote down here, they are very, very strong, but not very, very smart. Again, this is just me thinking. I think it's super, super early in the tour, and they are showing very early on that they're very strong.
Yeah, I couldn't help but wonder if it's intentional, like this ego pissing match between UAE and Jumbo to show dominance early, like we're in charge. That some of that is going on, right? Just showing that there's a stronger team. Although Jumbo seems to be more patient with their efforts.
I think it is definitely going on. I mean, you're not earning any prizes with that. That's for sure. And what I said in the preview show, I think they're very equal in terms of strength. I would not be able to say which is the strongest team overall, but in my opinion, Jumbo-Visma, they've raced more together and they have a calmer approach and they seem more trained together. Whereas UAE, I think they need to get into the tour and find each other. And
all your years as director too, and your race experience, but do you find it's hard to manage riders between ego and effort? Like, I know you can do this. Okay, I know you can go off the front. I know you're capable, but don't, right? That's a tough balancing act sometimes when you're thinking about the long-term goal and not letting the ego get in the way for something that isn't important.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy, and it's also not easy as a team director when you're in the car to not get dragged into that enthusiasm, because every stage, and especially the first stage, is super nervous. You're in the unknown, and basically the main objective of the first stages is get through the stage without any problems, without any crashes, without any punctures, without any time loss, right? And so once you have your team up front, it kind of feels safer rather than having them all over the place and not knowing where everybody is. So it is kind of easy to get dragged into, okay, guys, let's stay up there. And then once somebody is pulling and you see that other guys are getting dropped, you notify it on the radio. And then this guy, for example, if let's just say if Mikkel Bjerg is pulling and a guy like Alaphilippe gets dropped, and you say that, the guy gets even more excited, right? The guy who's pulling, and he goes a little bit further. So it's not always good to motivate them too much, especially so early in the stage, because in the race, because it's clear that they're super strong, UAE, but I don't know what their goal was today. Obviously, they wanted to see if they could get those 8 seconds on top of Gijs-Kiebel. They did. But, you can almost be sure that Vingegaard is going to have the 5, right? It's 8, 5, and 2. So it's a 3-second bonus. Is that really? And then at the end, of course, he also took 4 seconds in the last sprint. So, but is that worth a whole stage of pulling and sacrificing the team? That's the question. So for the moment, there's 2 stages, and I would say it's mental advantage for UAE because they got bonus out of it. Yesterday they won the stage, they got the yellow jersey, plus Pogacar got bonus. Today again, right? So you have to say for the moment, if you look at the numbers, they are right? But the question is this little time bonus worth so much effort? That's the question I have.
All right, let's talk about Victor Lafay with an awesome win. I love seeing that when someone is, brave enough to take that. He knows he can't sprint with those guys, and caught him off guard.
Well, first of all, you have to be up there with these guys. That was a really strong group. And we know Victor Lafay is not a well-known name, but he did win a stage last year in the Giro. Was it last year or 2 years ago? I don't remember. But anyway, I've seen him already a few times. 2 years ago, yeah. I've seen him a few times, being up there with the best of the best, especially on short climbs. And yesterday, the 2 big riders of the Tour de France were up front, Vingegaard and Pogacar, and he was there with them. Not just there hanging on, but as soon as there was a hesitation, he attacked, and Pogacar went straight on the wheel. So he's obviously in super shape. I've seen the numbers and the calculations, and so on yesterday's climb, for example, he came on. I think he went fastest. He was 1 second faster than Pogacar, so he has the KOM now on that last climb. But he did more or less 4 minutes at 8.2 watts per kilo. That's crazy. And there's not many guys who can do that. So obviously he is in great shape. It was clear that if he was able to hang on yesterday with them, he was going to be there today. He could sit in and just wait for his time, and he calculated it really well. What a win for him, and what a win for Cofidis, right? 15 years without winning a stage at the Tour de France, and this is the oldest team in France, which is racing the Tour, the longest lasting sponsor. They must be up there with Française des Jeux, but I think they're one of the oldest. The three teams, Française des Jeux, which is now Groupama, FDG, and Cofidis and AG2R, they're in there already since very long. But what a win for them, and for this guy. So Victor Lafay is definitely a name that we have to write down. The typical rider who, for example, seeing what he did yesterday, for example, this is a rider who could, for example, win Flèche Wallonne, which finishes on the Mur de Huy. This is very similar as the climb yesterday. So Yeah, I mean, amazing, and you know, good for Cofidis, and great for French cycling to not have to wait until I think last year it was stage 17 or 18 when a French guy, and then on top of that was Christophe Laporte, who was riding for Jumbo-Visma, won the first French stage. Now after stage 2 they have their win already, so
you've mentioned in the past that it'll calm the French media down too, right? Yeah. They behave differently if they get what they want, right?
Definitely. I mean, stage win, and you know, Gaudu is up there, and Bardet is up there, the guys for GC. So for the moment, the French media they'll be happy. They'll be happy.
Okay. All right. I'm going to come back to some team stuff with Jumbo. You spent a lot on UAE already, but your observation, break it down for everybody, what you thought should have happened with Jumbo and Vingegaard.
Yeah.
With that lead in today.
But first, I thought during the stage, Jumbo played it really well. You know, they let UAE pull. I don't know if there has been any talks between UAE and Jumbo-Visma. Probably yes. That usually happens. You know, like that UAE would say, okay, Jumbo, you also put 2 guys. They decided not to. And so they could sit back and save a lot of energy. And then they went to the front when it really mattered, just before the last climb. And they had 4 riders in the top group. So it was clear that this was a stage that Wout Van Aert had marked as, this is a stage I can win. He was the only sprinter. I mean, anyway, it's difficult to qualify or to put a label on Wout Van Aert, right? So is he a climber? Is he a sprinter? Is he a time trial? He's everything, right?
Right.
But still, you know, he's a big guy, and he was the only guy up there with that kind of speed in the sprint. So it was clear that he wanted to win that stage. And then at the end, you have Pello Bilbao, who was attacking in the downhill. Local guy, knows the roads extremely well. And we had Jumbo-Visma with Benoot and Kelderman setting the pace. So obviously they had Van Aert and Vingegaard sitting back, right? They already had to reel in Bilbao, and then when Lafay goes with 1K to go, they still had these guys. So Kelderman was setting the pace, but obviously he was spent. And then in a last effort, Benoot goes to the front. I really don't understand why Jonas Vingegaard didn't take a pole. If it was that big of a goal for them to win the stage with Van Aert, with one strong pull of Vingegaard. Jonas Vingegaard did the same thing twice in the Dauphiné for Christophe Laporte. He did the last kilometer, and it was unbelievably fast. So Vingegaard was there in a position that he could have gone to the front and take a pull of 300-400 meters. They would have reeled in Lafay, and Van Aert would have won the sprint.
No, I hate to interrupt you, but some of our listeners are probably questioning. Why would the defending champion and GC contender take a pole in a sprint?
Well, I mean, you know, because obviously it's a team. Van Aert has done already in the past tremendous work for Vingegaard, and he will have to, and he will do a lot of work for him in this tour. So I personally think that the sooner Van Aert wins a stage, the better for Jumbo-Visma, because, you know, obviously Van Aert knows his job, but he's also a champion, and he has an ego, and he wants to win a stage, or he wants to win several stages.
Mm-hmm.
This was a stage that they had marked as, okay, this is a stage we can win. So I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't know if there's going to be some kind of disagreement or unhappiness from Van Aert towards Vingegaard. I think Vingegaard is super, super focused on Pogačar, and, you know, the explanation could be, well, if Vingegaard pulls, Van Aert can win the stage, but Pogačar gets second instead of third, and instead of 4 seconds, he gets 6 seconds. But that's really neglectable, I would think. It's whether he takes 4 or 6 seconds. I think it's a lot more important to have Van Aert happy and motivated for the rest of the tour. And if Van Aert wins today's stage and he owes it to Vingegaard, which would have been the case, then you have a Van Aert who will give. I'm not saying he's not going to give his 100%, but it's just a little bit extra, and the good feeling within the team also. If yesterday UAE is the mental winner of, they won the stage. If today Jumbo-Visma can respond to that, it's again equal, right? This battle, you guys won a stage, but so did we. So I found it surprising to see that Jonas Vingegaard didn't take that last pull. He could have. And Van Aert definitely would have won the stage.
Yeah, so interesting. You've talked a lot in the past about the politics among the peloton, but the politics within your own bus. Everybody needs a little something. And UAE is in a great position because they're already in yellow. Yates is getting some. They've had a victory under their belt already.
Yeah.
And
so I think in this case here, Yates will definitely, as soon as he's out of yellow, he will give it his all for Pogačar. Van Aert will also give it his all. But I think the atmosphere within the team would have been different if today Van Aert wins and it's thanks to Vingegaard. That would be a bit amazing. It's, of course, it's so easy to say when you're watching on screen and then you review the images and said, in the heat of the action, it's difficult. But the fact that you had Kelderman pulling, and when he was done, there was nobody there. And then Tish Benoot, who was already spent, had to come from behind and do one extra pull. But obviously, he didn't have the power anymore. Vingegaard still had that power. Yeah. And they would have caught him for sure.
It's pretty remarkable. My observation is, if the goal is for Wout Van Aert to win, how often Wout Van Aert has to close gaps? He always seems to be in a position of no one else is going to do this but me.
Yeah.
And he's pretty spent going into a lot of sprints. Just a testament to him.
Already today we could see on the climb that Van Aert had to go on the limit to stay with that first group on the Jijskibel, logically. Because it was all the best guys. So, he was already, giving it his all. And then he, I think it was Pidcock. Yeah, when Pidcock attacked, it was Van Aert who closed the gap, right?
If you want to see a funny visual, funny to me, when, Pidcock, his attack didn't stick because Van Aert closed it. But there's a shot, I'll try to find it to put on here. You had a front shot from the moto of Pidcock, and you can see all of Wout Van Aert behind Pidcock. Mm-hmm. Just the difference in size of those two
small,
riders.
So narrow. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Pretty remarkable. But
it's also, it is if you are Wout Van Aert and you're so strong and everybody knows that that's your goal and that's the goal of your team, it's not easy to win because every situation that's happening, you have to solve it. There's nobody else. Everybody's waiting for Van Aert and Jumbo to kind of fail to solve a situation, to take advantage of it and then get away. So that's the price you have to pay for being so good. You have to be, when Van Aert wins, it's because he's by far the strongest. He has to do so much more work than anybody else who's up there rivaling with him.
Let's talk about some of the other GC contenders that are looking good right out of the gate. I know Bernal was right out there. Egan Bernal's looking good.
Yeah.
What do you know about him?
I said, yesterday he was not with the first group, but he was right after there. It's the first time we see Egan Bernal again, up there. And I've seen his interview yesterday. I've seen his interview today. He seems to be very happy. Of course, he's super happy that he's back in the Tour and that he thinks he can be a factor. He's not going to win the Tour. But I think from what I see and the way I see him on the bike, he's going to get better and better in this Tour de France, in my opinion. And we'll see something of, the Egan Bernal we used to see. I think he's able to win a stage. I think even has a shot at the podium. I like what I see.
And just for any newer listeners out there, Egan Bernal, previous Tour winner, horrible accident. I don't remember how long it was ago, but imagine yourself 2 years ago. Imagine yourself head down in a time trial position training and slamming into the back of a truck, like a dump truck, pretty much. Nasty accident and recovery. So it is good to see him back. And I had to look up, he's only 26.
Was actually, JB, it's actually only 1 year ago. It was the beginning of last year.
Okay, yeah.
Because 2 years ago, he won the Giro.
Yeah, if you look at his socials and go back a year, him laid up in that hospital, it was bad. So, yeah, great to see him back.
I'm still seeing, there was camera images from the crash, actually. He was on his time trial bike. He was looking down and he went head first against a parked truck or a bus. That was so bad. The fact that he's riding his bike is a miracle, let alone be in the Tour and So yeah, I think anything that happens for him in the Tour is a victory, right? But he looks better and better.
After we finished the show yesterday, the recording, but we speculated that Richard Carapaz would not start today. Turns out it was a fractured kneecap, or it just sounds horrible. That changes dynamics for EF's goals, and we saw, and for American audience, this is exciting. We see Nielsen Palace, who's riding well, and it seems as though his goal is going to be to get that polka dot jersey, which would be a great results for that team and exciting for a U.S. audience to have an American on a podium.
I've read that one of his dreams when he was a child was to wear that jersey, that specific jersey, the polka dot jersey. So how nice is that, right? And I can even see Lance change his mind on the polka dot jersey, even American,
because he likes Nielsen. He likes Nielsen in particular. Yeah.
Obviously today, great ride from him. He's gonna, if he wants to pursue that jersey, it's not an easy competition because you have to be in breakaways, especially because there's some really, really big climbs on which the GC riders get a lot of points. So you have to be in a lot of breakaways, and obviously he knows. He's riding really well, and he knows how to get in breakaways. Shame of Richard Carapaz. I want to mention that also. If afterwards you see that you have a fractured kneecap, and thinking that he did the last 25 kilometers of that stage, going up that climb, which is incredibly steep. It's probably a small fracture, right? But that hurts. That hurts unbelievably. Apparently it's not too severe. So I've read the reports, and apparently within 2 weeks he would be able to start cycling again lightly. So it's obviously not. It's not a break. It's not broken. It's fractured. But still, both him and Enric Mas. Enric Mas also broken scapula and I think severely concussed also. So it can happen. Those were two big names, right? The two leaders of their teams who after day one are out. But EF, we talked yesterday about readjusting and finding new goals. Obviously, EF today we're definitely doing that, and we'll see with Movistar. It's going to take a few days for them to get readjusted, but you have to keep going. 20 more days.
Right. Okay, we have our Ventum trivia, and I bet you knew the answer from yesterday. The tallest climb in this year's Tour, Johan, is. I'll let you answer.
Col de Iseran.
That is correct. That is correct. You are.
What is it, like 2,700 meters or something?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Around 9,000 feet.
2,700 meters. I remember Iseran from when Egan Bernal won the Tour, they went over Iseran, and he went as soon as they hit 2,000 meters, he took a minute, and then on the top of the climb or at the beginning of the downhill, the stage was canceled because there was a big mudslide on the other side, and that's basically how he won the Tour on that climb.
Yeah, that was wild. The road was closed. There was no going past it. It was a mudslide. Now the next question, again, this is from Ventum, and if you want to answer this question, you can go in email your answer and go in a drawing for a brand new NS1, a complete bike. So today's question is, who was the first organizer of the Tour de France? All right. Don't blurt it out, Johan, like Lance did earlier. Who was the first organizer? You can look it up. It doesn't matter.
What year was it?
Oh, I don't know offhand. Oh, man.
I think 1903, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
1903 was the first Tour de France, if I'm not mistaken, because I remember 2003 was the 100th anniversary, not the 100th edition, but the 100th anniversary.
Oh, because there were a couple of years during war.
With the war, yeah.
Yeah. So send your answer. Who was the first organizer of the Tour de France? Send your answer in an email to trivia@ventumracing.com. And at the end of the tour, we're going to draw a name of somebody who's participated in this, and you'll win a brand new NS1. And if you want to send any, I have a question for you. That's right. Okay. You can send questions to JB2, JB squared, at wedo.team. And Daniel writes, first a comment, joyful music to my ears, you two are. Thank you so much for keeping the JB Squared show up and running. It's amazing how you guys manage to do all these shows and deliver always super entertaining time with lots of spicy scoops. And keep in mind, if you think it's a big deal, I do these two. Johan still has La Movida and Outcomes ahead of him. So, but he went on to ask this question for you, Johan. He said, would Alan Piper have been able to leash up Pogačar? Do you think his authority over him is what is missing in UAE? Again, that's from Daniel. Thanks for writing in.
Well, I think the first year that Pogačar won the Tour, 2020, Alan was in the car. He was there. 2021, he was not. But Pogačar was incredibly strong. Now Alan's not with UAE anymore. I think Alan had still has a very good relationship with Pogačar, but you know he definitely had some influence over him by talking to him, and doesn't necessarily always need to be in the race. You know, you can explain the way you see things, or post stage you can have a debrief and with somebody who's not even there. Yeah, I mean, Pogačar is Pogačar, and once he has his numbers on, he just goes for it. Mm-hmm. I think that's the problem. I mean, it is one of his dangers. It's one of his biggest enemies is his own enthusiasm. We've said it already in the past. Obviously, that's the way he races. Looks like this year is going to be the same. You know, we've seen 2 stages, and 2 stages he just went for it. So. Doesn't look like neither Pogačar nor the team has learned anything from last year. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, as far as I know, I've read that Alan is now a consultant with Jaco Alula. So with Simon Yates, you know, the guy who got second yesterday. So that's the team that rides. I mean, they obviously don't have the quality, they don't have the horsepower, you know, of UAE, but they're riding smart usually. And I don't know, man. I personally think in UAE that the problem is that in the car, and I've said this already in other episodes of the move, probably last year, is that in the car the guys go with the enthusiasm of Tadej, and they kind of, follow and say, come on, let's go, let's kill them, let's do this. Come on, you're dropping this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it needs to be counterbalanced in the car. It needs to be the voice of reason. And especially when you have, and it's usually the case when you have a big talent like Pogacar, I had the same with Lance. I had the same thing sometimes, and with Contador the same. The biggest challenge was to slow these guys down and to say, hey, listen, think about tomorrow. Think about your teammates. This is a long race, because they're always good and they always want to win.
Yeah, it's very similar to what we talked about earlier, balancing that ego, right?
Yeah.
Keeping it in check. I have kind of a follow-up question to Daniel is, Alan Piper, for health reasons, was doing some directing remotely, which is a pretty interesting position to be in. My question for you, because what you see when you're in the car, the heat of the moment, is very different from what someone in a controlled environment watching it on television can see. When you were directing, Johan, did you have anybody, or maybe more than one, very trusted people that you would call and get their analysis?
Absolutely. Because I had people on standby. Whatever they saw. I mean, obviously, it needs to be people who really know cycling, but sometimes you see things on TV that you don't see in the race, and even in the race, you have a small TV screen. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I had different sources of information remotely. To be able to, know straight away what was going on. And
so you might get a call while you were driving, to get a call. Oh, I need to take that. Right.
Yeah. But, and I also have to say, JB, and maybe it's, anyway, I'm allowed to say whatever I want, because I'm banned for life. So this doesn't matter. But I get calls from teams and riders to asking for my opinion during the Tour of Spain, during the races. So I think more a lot of teams have that kind of system. They have their network of sources of information and sources for advice.
Can you divulge who, maybe one name of who you trusted the most? No.
When you were
the most, who you trust? Not now. What's going on now? Who you trusted the most?
Well, I mean, one person who always called me, whatever, because we know each other extremely well, and the guy has raced also, not at a professional level, but for my brother. My brother knows a lot about cycling, so he was always, when he was watching, he said, "Hey, I just saw this. and I knew that when he saw something that it probably made sense."
Okay, that's interesting. And what's your brother's name? What does he do?
My brother is a personal trainer now. His name is Alain. He's 4 years younger than me.
Wow. Any other siblings? I don't know all this stuff.
Yeah. I have 2 younger sisters too.
I have 3 siblings also. 3 sisters.
Are you the oldest, or I'm the oldest?
No, I'm the third. I'm the third one down the line.
Okay.
Yeah, you're the oldest.
Yeah,
that makes sense. The way you act like an oldest sibling. The way you lead. My oldest sister is that way. All right. If you have a question for a future show specifically for Johan, send it to JB2. That's JB2 at wedo.team. WEDU.team. Got it? Got it. All right, Johan, thank you so much, and we'll talk tomorrow.
Okay. Thanks, JB. Talk tomorrow.